Well, you just heard the world premiere recording of John Estacio's Navigations, performed live here in Studio A at CKUA Studios downtown with the High Level Trio. And I'm thrilled to be joined now by the High Level Trio in Studio A. The High Level Trio is made up of Ewald Cheung, violin, Ethan Filner, viola, and Julie Hereish, cello. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for being on Classical Connections with me.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's so exciting. So, Ewald, I'm curious, I'll start with you. How did the High Level Trio come to be?
Well, we actually started as a quartet with one of our colleagues, and they left town during the pandemic. And so we were deciding whether to find another violinist to continue on. And we decided to explore string trio pieces, and that's how we started off playing more string trio works. We also thought as well, it's a great opportunity for us to explore a totally different realm of works, and also maybe even collaborate with other performers as well. So that really expands our repertoire as a trio.
That's exciting. And just so our audience knows, all of you are full-time members of the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra.
Yes.
What's it like, Ewald, having a chance to play together in such an intimate setting?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's so wonderful to be able to play great chamber music with wonderful colleagues. It's such a great opportunity for us to work on a very different part of our playing. It's such a different style of playing from orchestra playing. So it's a really nice opportunity for us to do that.
That's exciting. Julie, Ewald talked a little bit about a string trio versus string quartet. Can you speak a little bit to what makes a trio unique?
Sure. I think that the lack of one person, so it makes it quite challenging for composers, because I feel like there's always kind of they wish there was another instrument to like fill out this other line of the harmony or whatever's happening. So I feel like it's quite challenging to play most of the time because we're kind of filling all the voices, but especially for the viola, I find for, if I can say that, although Ethan makes everything sound so easy. So, but it's true, often the viola kind of brings the extreme voices, the low and the high, together, and plays like a lot of double stops and things to like glue us together, which I find very interesting. It's sometimes it feels more soloistic, the playing, because it's fewer people. So it is an interesting thing to do. It feels different than a quartet, definitely.
Absolutely. And just talk a little bit about the repertoire. You're playing this brand new piece by John Estacio, but you also have you're playing the Dohnanyi Serenade in concert as well, alongside the Estacio, the Beethoven Serenade. Can you talk a little bit about the music you're playing, the repertoire?
Yeah, we started as a trio with playing the Dohnanyi Serenade, which is kind of one of the pillar pieces for string trio. And we started with that, really enjoy playing it, discovering each other as a trio. And then we thought, hey, there's this serenade Beethoven wrote 100 years before, the same form. Let's work on that so we can make a link between both, kind of see how they are related to each other. And after that, we thought it would be so cool to commission a new work. So you have Beethoven, who wrote a serenade, and then 100 years later, Dohnanyi, early 20th century. And then what would it be now, And what if we ask a composer we know to write a piece that would be in the same form, but just reflecting our days? And so that's how it sparked the idea of asking John Estacio for the commission.
And for our audience members who may or may not know, John is a Order of Canada inductee. He's a local Edmonton composer who has an incredible career across this country and internationally. Ethan, what was it like commissioning a brand new piece from a living composer?
It was really exciting. It's been quite a long journey over the last couple of years since we first started talking about the Beethoven and Dohnanyi link, and then thinking about who we might want to commission. There was a touring program that we had thought to apply for that we didn't get. That when we applied for it, we were thinking maybe we could create a program with these pieces and commission someone that we could then share nationwide on this tour. And we were delighted to receive grants from both the Canada Council for the Arts and the province of Alberta through the Alberta Foundation for the Arts to commission John, even though we didn't get the tour. But as part of that application, we had reached out to contacts that we have in Alberta who had heard us play and knew of us, presenters that could help us make sure that we had somewhere to play the piece once we had commissioned it. And so those pieces were kind of all in place even before we had the music. So we were very excited when we talked to John and he said, "Let me think about it." And then, because it's a big thing to ask. He'd written a string quartet about 22 years ago, and just a couple of other small, I think a violin and piano piece, and a lot of orchestral, choral pieces, some opera, much larger scale works than chamber music. And I think he needed to think about what he could do with this idea that we brought to him of creating something Canadian, contemporary, reflecting our culture, his big question was, what is quote unquote our culture in Canada? That's kind of a huge question. And actually, once he accepted the commission, he eventually kind of turned away from culture, actually, and more toward the landscape across Canada. And I love knowing all of these little details about our own story about commissioning him, because he was, it's silly to say this way, but he's alive, and we are working with him and communicating with him, emailing with him, having some back and forth conversations. He actually came to a rehearsal of ours for some other music early on in his process, just to hear us play and get to know us a little bit more musically. We learned about his music. The reason we commissioned him is because we had known of his music through the orchestra playing that we're doing. Actually, first heard his. I was a part of the world premiere of his trumpet concerto several years ago when I was in Kitchener-Waterloo, and I thought his music was fantastic, and was thrilled when I moved to Edmonton to discover that he lives here. So I'd been kind of had a hankering for working with him for a while.
That's great. So Ethan, you talked about just the privilege of being able to, because often, Dohnanyi is not around anymore, Beethoven's not around, John Estacio lives down the street.
Right.
What was it like being able to collaborate with a living artist? What was it like working with John?
It's interesting. Every composer has their own voice musically. So you kind of, I think playing his sort of dance-like orchestral music, I don't know that we talked specifically about what we expected. We just thought that it would be really interesting to see what this orchestral and choral big-scale composer would write on an intimate scale. And one of the things, like for string quartets, it's kind of well known that, or at least often talked about, how personal composers can get with that small chamber music form. I think they do the same with string trio. It's just slightly different the way that Julie described how they treat the different voices. So I think we're really eager to hear how he would make it sort of more personal, how his personality would come out in a different way.
I know our St. Albert audience, Edmonton audiences. Are you playing elsewhere?
We're going to be we're trying to get a date confirmed in Grand Prairie.
Oh, okay. So
and-
Grand Prairie, if you're listening, let's make this happen.
I'm pretty sure it's happening. We just don't have a nailed down yet.
But you'll get a chance to hear this piece in full. To the High Level Trio, again, thank you so much for being with me here in Studio A at CKUA. It's just such an honor and a treat to have you with me this morning. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
Thank you.